Good morning.
Morning, everyone. How's it going?
Hi, I'm Fiona.
And I'm Jamie.
And we are with you it's a bit grisly, isn't it, really?
Grim, yeah.
Grim today.
Not great.
Oh. How are you doing, Jamie?
Yeah, do you know what? I just had a week of holiday.
Oh, wow.
I know.
Amazing.
So I feel like I sort of need some more, though. Do you ever get that feeling at the end of a holiday?
Absolutely. You need a holiday after the holiday, especially when you've got young children to take away.
Oh, let's just turn my phone. I'm watching myself on here. There we go.
There we go,
All
techie.
sorted.
There we go.
Lovely.
Excellent. So this morning we're doing a poll, and we're looking at things we search for answers for on the internet.
Okay.
So what do you Google, Jamie?
This week, I Googled a very strange question, actually.
Yeah, okay.
What do owls' legs look like?
Oh, they're brilliant, owls. I've seen this. I've searched this now. They're really long.
You would just think they're like tiny little things.
Yeah, no.
Huge. Owls are lanky.
They really
I
are.
had no
I know
idea.
everyone's searching. Anyone that's watching this is like, what do owls' legs look
owls'
like?
legs. You won't regret it.
You won't regret it. It's worth the Google.
It's life-changing.
I mean, that's probably one of the less common questions we search for online. But we've actually got a poll. We've got a poll. Now, here's a techie bit. If you get your phone and you get your camera out, if you've got a smartphone, we've got a QR code. So what you can do is you get your phone and you take a photo of the QR code and it takes you straight to the poll. And you can already see, there we go, some answers coming through. And there's the questions. How do I fix something that's broken?
Yeah,
funny pictures of cats, that kind of thing.
What's this weed? That's a lot. Like, what is this weed in the garden?
Yeah. Is it poisonous?
Yeah, exactly. My child's just eating this.
Don't need to go to A&E anytime soon.
Those sort of things.
Yeah. So, has anyone else been homeschooling?
Oh gosh, that must be hard.
Yeah. So Google has been a godsend for homeschool. So anything from how do I teach my child times tables to what on earth is an expanded noun phrase, all these kind of things.
I'm intrigued. What is an expanded
I don't know,
noun?
Jamie. We've been doing this for the past 6 months and I don't know. My kids don't know. No one knows. No one knows. You don't need to learn it in life, kids.
Cool.
But,
right.
There we go. You can still Google it. Lots of things like that.
Good.
Yeah,
do you find that with Google, actually, is that it's got all the answers, so I look up the answer and I don't need to remember it because I can just Google it again.
Yeah, that is actually quite a problem with modern living, isn't it? We don't need to retain this knowledge.
Exactly. My brain's like, I'll just have it whilst I need it, and then I'll just leave it to Google whenever I need it again. It's like taking the place of my brain.
It is, and your brain fills with like pictures of cats and what owls' legs look like, things like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Has anyone else? Have we got anybody saying what they have been searching for at the moment? No, come on, guys. Take part in the poll. Send us some information about what you have been Googling. In fact, we're getting a hamster this week, so we have been Googling how not to kill a hamster, basically. Hamster food.
Hamster food.
Hamster food. You can get that from the pet shop.
Nice.
But lots of stuff like that, like how to take care of what you need for a hamster. I mean,
that's good. Is it a high maintenance pet?
I hope not. I don't know, really. Apparently not, but you never know.
I got bit by one as a kid.
I have too. Yeah.
They look cute, but you watch out.
Yeah. Did you need to go to A&E? Did you have to Google that? Do I need to go to A&E with a hamster bite?
I think it's gone completely.
Actually, that is something I've had to Google. It's like, have we got some answers coming in?
We look like we've got how to fix some of our breaks up there. How to learn a new skill or hobby.
Oh, definitely.
That is the highest on our poll at the moment. I like that. Ideas for where to go on holiday. That's especially now, right? Because it's like, where am I allowed to go?
Yeah.
We stayed at the 5-star all-inclusive hotel in-law last week with Amy's mum and dad.
That's perfect.
Wonderful.
Isn't it?
Yeah, lovely. They got chickens in the back garden. So Jude was if he doesn't have something to do, just go and play with the chickens. He thinks they're his friends now.
Fantastic. I mean, that's the ideal holiday, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. What else have we got on here? How to stop my kids arguing. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that has been quite a popular one during lockdown, hasn't it? Or just indeed in life in general. We've got loads of people joining us. Good morning, Ian, Debbie, Tony, Christine. Good morning.
Oh, Tom and Naomi, they've been searching for how toilet cisterns work. I don't want to ask why.
I don't know what a toilet system is.
It's a bit at the top, I think, isn't it, that fills with water and then before you flush it? Yeah.
Imagine if you can't get a plumber in at the moment. That's probably
you
not need that knowledge,
times.
don't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Love that. No one, it's good to see that no one's put that they didn't know that they could search for answers. Good.
That's helpful.
I'm glad we all knew. Otherwise, this series that we're going to do.
I know, exactly. It's not going to make sense. Because we are going to start a new series in a bit.
Yeah.
And we're going to be looking at things we search for. Obviously, that's got a kind of good twist on it, rather than just a Google twist. But
answers that we're looking for.
Answers we're looking for, yeah.
And we're really excited to start that with you today, guys. So welcome. It's great to have you with us. It's so good to be with you this Sunday. And we are about to get going. So get comfy. We're in.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Fiona.
And I'm Jamie. Great to see you.
Welcome to FBC on this grey, drizzly Sunday morning, but hopefully we've got something to cheer you up.
Yeah.
So we are starting a new series.
Exciting times.
Yeah, I think it's going for the whole summer period, and we're looking at search. So before you joined us, Jamie and I have just been having a little chat about things we search for online.
Owl's legs.
Owl's legs. Jamie's desperate to get you to search for owl's legs. They are brilliant, I have to say.
Incredible.
And we've actually got a little poll going. So if you go to fbcnext.com/poll, you can answer, what do you mainly search for on the internet? And we've got people searching for how we fix broken things, memes of cats, videos of cats, how to stop kids arguing,
where to go on holiday,
absolutely. So do get on that. We'll be looking at the results of that as we go forward. So Jamie, we've got some sort of exciting news about what's coming up at FBC.
Well, one of the questions that people might have been asking is, when is the FBC Cafe going to be reopened? When? I need my coffee. Well, last week we opened back up again for takeaway drinks, and it went really well. It was great to see so many of you here supporting us as we restart. We've got lots of protocols and measures in to maintain social distancing and keep everyone nice and safe. So thank you for coming along. Why not pop across and see us this week? It would be great to have you.
I know, I've missed my Americano.
Oh yeah, is that what you go for? Flat white for me.
Definitely. Get some caffeine, the park's reopened.
Nice.
Fantastic. So it's been great to see the kids playing out there again.
Really cool.
So shall we get on? Shall we begin our new series on search?
I think we should. Let's take it away.
Back in 1936, an Austrian scientist developed a term to describe something that is commonplace in our world today. This thing is so prevalent in many of our lives that it's difficult to think that going back just over 80 years, there wasn't a word for it. It's something that 74% of adults in the UK experience every year. And I think that statistic is even higher this year. So what is it? Stress. Today, I want us to consider this question. How do I feel refreshed in a world that is stressing me out? We're starting a brand new series where throughout the summer, we're going to search for answers to some of life's and faith's big questions for our world at the moment. We've got a whole bunch of people contributing to this series, posing 7 different questions. But we're not going to answer them ourselves. I'm not going to give you my advice for how to feel refreshed in a world that is stressing you out. For the next 7 weeks, we're going to explore some of the words of Jesus as he speaks into the issues we face today. We're going to stand on the shoulders of this ancient wisdom that has stood the test of time and is as relevant today as ever. You know, we have dozens of search engines at our disposal. Google and YouTube are the go-to place to find answers to life's questions. I do this. If I don't know how to do something, I will Google it. My Google and YouTube history is full of searches for things like this. How do you get live streaming to work? How do you play golf better? What is an expanded noun phrase? How many of you have had to Google something you didn't understand when trying to homeschool your kids? Now, as good as Google and YouTube are for finding help and answers to some of our questions, it can't answer the big questions we have. Sometimes we need a source greater than Google. Having said that, you don't have to believe that Jesus is the Son of God, that he is God himself, to listen to what he has to say and to apply it to your life. The words of Jesus are important to me. I believe that Jesus is more than a person in history. I believe that he is fully God and fully man. I believe there's more to Jesus than I can possibly begin to understand. And my experience is that my life has a deeper sense of purpose and value when I seek to apply the things he said. My experience of following Jesus is that he makes life better and he makes me better at life. But you don't have to believe what I believe to benefit from the things Jesus said. You can try it for yourself and see what happens. So let's get back to our question. How do I feel refreshed in a world that is stressing me out? Where are the tensions you're facing in life at this moment? What are the things that are stressing you out? If you're watching this live, then share them in the chat or the comments. Let us know the things that are stressing you out at the moment. We'd love to be able to pray for you, and you can pray for one another also. I'm sure many of you have felt the strain of having to juggle looking after the kids whilst also working from home. Have you had a stressful moment when you were on a work call only to be interrupted by your kids asking for something? Did you see the Sky News correspondent being interviewed live on Sky News where her son walks into the room and negotiates for 2 biscuits? It's quite funny to watch, but it points to a deeper underlying struggle that many of us have faced over the last few months. It induces feelings of guilt as we feel we aren't able to give our kids or our jobs the attention they both require. Perhaps a stress point for you has been related to family you don't live with. Families are often a stress point at the best of time. Perhaps you have elderly relatives who you can't see. You feel disconnected from them and helpless. You want to help out, but you don't know what to do. Now, sure, you can order some shopping and make sure they have the supplies they need, but you can't go and give them a hug. You can't ease their fears, and you can't ensure they will stay completely safe during this time. Perhaps the easing of lockdown has created more stress and uncertainty for you around this. You can go and visit them, but you're not sure if this will make them feel worse. Are you putting them at greater risk? Maybe you've got grandchildren or nephews and nieces that you're longing to see, but you haven't been able to. Or perhaps you have now been able to see them in person, but you can't hug them. Perhaps uncertainty around work has been a stress point for you. It's been a roller coaster or a corona coaster, as someone described it to me earlier this week. Perhaps uncertainty around work has been a stress point for you. It's been a roller coaster or a corona coaster, as someone described it to me earlier this week. A few months ago, many of us were uncertain of the impact this would have on our jobs. We weren't sure how we would work or if we would work. Will we still have a job to come back to after this is all over? Now, many of us are now going back to work. We might have been working from home all this time, but now we're being asked to go back into our place of work. That can be a really stressful experience. Any situation where we're unsure about what will happen brings a degree of stress. We've all had our fair share of that this year. So how do we feel refreshed in the midst of a world that is making us stressed out? What can Jesus possibly say into this situation that will help us? Now, the Bible talks a lot about stress, worry, and anxiety. However, it can be really easy to misinterpret what it says. There's a guy called Paul who wrote lots of the letters in the New Testament. Paul understands what it's like to feel stressed. He was shipwrecked, he was persecuted and arrested. He had times when it was all going well and times when everything seemed to be falling apart around him. In one of his letters, Paul writes this: "Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God." Statements like this can be helpful or harmful. It can be easy for us to interpret these words that are supposed to be a blessing as another burden. We can read them as a command that we're failing to obey, which creates more anxiety. These words can serve as a reminder that we can bring our stress and our worry to God, but they can also make us feel worse. If you're feeling anxious, being told to not be anxious doesn't help. It can be really difficult to know how best to help someone who is feeling anxious, who is caught up in worry and stress. How many times have you told someone to calm down who is not calm? It seems a perfectly rational and logical thing to say from your perspective. Telling someone who's anxious to not be anxious is like telling someone who is bleeding to not bleed. So what do? How do we feel refreshed in a world that is stressing us out? Didn't Jesus say the same thing as Paul? Didn't Jesus tell us not to worry? Well, sort of. Matthew records a time for us where Jesus was speaking to a large crowd of people. He was talking about many things relating to everyday life. At one point, Jesus says, "Therefore I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat or drink, or about your body, what you will wear." Now, the context for what Jesus is talking about here is not worrying about money or food or clothing. He is talking about not making what we have to be the central focus of our lives. Jesus is saying in the verses before this that we shouldn't store up for ourselves treasures on earth. He is saying that the purpose of life is not found in how much stuff you can acquire. Because when we do this, it just leads to us feeling empty, unsatisfied, and worried. Jesus is telling us that there's more to life than what we have. Have you noticed how the more you have, the more you worry about what you don't have? Now, this is a helpful reminder, but if you're worrying about what you have or don't have, being told to simply not worry isn't going to make a difference. You will just add worrying about not worrying to the list of things you are worrying about. What's that going to do to your stress levels? Jesus isn't talking about how to handle stress here. He's talking about not letting your life be governed by the pursuit of wealth. If we fast forward a couple of chapters, we come across something else that Jesus said. These words are some of the most precious words to me that I've read in the Bible. They are words that have drastically shaped and influenced my life. They are words I carry with me close to my heart. They are words that speak life into my soul. This is what Jesus says. "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." This is an invitation, it's not a command. Jesus starts off by giving the invitation and then sharing the result of the invitation. He then goes on to give some instruction on how to accept the invitation. Let's take another look. "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened." That's the invitation. If that's you, Jesus invites you to come to him. He shows us how we actually do this later. Now, are you weary and burdened? Are you struggling under the weight of life at the moment? Is all the stress and uncertainty taking its toll on you? Do you feel exhausted, worn out? Do you feel like you want to throw in the towel? If you are wearied, burdened, anxious, stressed, or worried, Jesus invites you to come to him. And what does he promise us when we come to him? He will give us rest. I need that. I'm exhausted from life at the moment. The last few months have been some of the most challenging I've ever faced in what I do. When you add the stress of work into the stress of other parts of life, it's no wonder we are wearied and burdened and need a rest. Rest is an important part of life. We need to have healthy rhythms of work and rest. Jesus talks a lot about this and models it for us. The problem for many of us is that we work, we get tired, we take a break, and we go again. Holidays and time off become something we long for, striving to get to our next break before we break. We rest, recharge, and we go again, lurching from one holiday to the next. Now, Jesus isn't actually talking about that here. He's not talking about rhythms of work and rest in this context. Jesus isn't offering you a holiday. He's not taking over from Thomas Cook. Jesus' invitation to come to him and find rest is an invitation for us in the midst of the stress. He's offering us rest in the midst of the crisis. He is wanting to help us keep going when we have to keep going. The rest Jesus is talking about here is not the rest you get when you withdraw, when you retreat, when you stop. The rest Jesus is offering you is the ability to find calm, peace, refreshment in the middle of the chaos. Do you want that? Do you need that? I'm sure many of us would love nothing better than to be able to drop everything and take a week off. But most of us can't do that. And even if we could, we can't keep doing it. You might have some time off booked this summer, but as soon as you get back, you'll be back into the normal stress and worry. Jesus is offering something different than a break from the stress. He's offering you the ability to find rest, to be refreshed in the midst of the chaos. Jesus invites you to come to him, and as you come to him, you will find rest. Rest that goes deeper than a lie-in. Rest that goes deeper than a day off or a holiday. So how do we do this? How do we come to Jesus? I know how to go on holiday. I know where to go if I want to relax on the beach or sit on a bench in the park. I know where to go if I want to hang out with a friend. How do I come to Jesus in a way that results in this rest and refreshment? Well, Jesus tells us, take my yoke upon you and learn from me. Now, we might not fully understand what Jesus means here. Jesus is using terminology that his original listeners would understand. A yoke is a piece of equipment used in agriculture. It's something that goes across the shoulders of an ox for it to be harnessed to another animal or to pull plowing equipment. A yoke symbolizes work, hard work. Now, on face value, this doesn't make sense. Jesus is inviting us to come to him to find rest, and the way we do that is by working. The point is, we all have a yoke on our shoulders. For many of us, it's one we put there. For others, it's one put there by other people. Often it's expectation. We allow ourselves to be burdened by the weight of expectation, expectations we have for ourselves or expectations others have for us. Every aspect of our lives comes with these expectations: work, home, school, church, family, friends. They pile up on top of each other, and soon we're buckling under their weight. For many of us, we carry around a huge weight of expectation. We want to be the best we can be, and we want people to think the best about us. That's exhausting after a while. Social media often doesn't help here. We look at what others are doing, comparing ourselves to the photoshopped versions of themselves that they post for the world to see. We look at the reality of our lives and think they don't match the snapshot that others post of theirs. We try to create ourselves in the image of Instagram, looking for one more like. We forget that we're created in the image of God, that the Creator likes us. We allow ourselves to worry about what people we don't even know or perhaps even like think about us. We compare what we're doing with what they're doing. The people who seem to have it all together, the ones who've been doing craft and baking and adventures with their kids. A good day for them seems to be composing a family song, learning a new language, and teaching their 3-year-old A-level calculus. You were just hoping to be able to go to the toilet without being interrupted. This comparison is an extra weight that we have to carry around with us. Then you throw in something unexpected. Something like a worldwide pandemic that brings with it a bunch of added stress and uncertainty. This gets piled up on top of the yoke that we are already struggling to carry, and before you know it, we are crushed underneath, burnt out, exhausted, broken. Jesus comes to us and says, take it off. That yoke is not designed for you. I have one that fits you perfectly. Take my yoke. Learn from me. As Jesus invites us to come to him, he invites us to walk with him, to get in step with him, to look to him and learn from him, to live in him, allowing him to be the filter through which we live and breathe. That all that I am and all that I do flows through him. My values, my priorities, what I do with my time, what I do with my money, how I treat people around me, the expectations I allow to be placed on me. All of that is found in the yoke we carry. Jesus says, take my yoke, carry this, follow me. This is a yoke that comes with healthy rhythms of work and rest. Jesus wants you to work hard. He doesn't want you to hardly work, but he wants you to do it in a way that is healthy and sustainable. So why should we take Jesus' yoke instead of ours or someone else's? Well, Jesus tells us, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. The expectations and burden I put on myself and allow others to put on me are often not gentle or humble, and they certainly do not result in rest. But that isn't the same with Jesus. I see a pattern in my life when I do this, when I come to him, when I allow myself to shed the yoke I've picked up or have allowed to be placed on me by others. When I replace that with his, I feel lighter. When I stop trying to live life my way, for me, with me at the center. When I look to Jesus, when I seek to follow him and live in step with him, I feel refreshed. Even though I find myself in the midst of chaos. When I walk in step with Jesus, I find that the other aspects of my life tend to fall into balance. I rest more. I take time off without feeling guilty because I know I haven't got anything to prove. I look after myself better. I eat better and I sleep better. I take better care of the people around me, the people I love. I respond to them better, putting their needs above my own. But for some reason, I quickly default back to the other way. For some reason, I have a tendency to pick up the old heavy yoke. I've yet to find a way to stop me doing this. So each day I come to Jesus afresh, consciously allowing myself to carry the yoke he has for me. And sometimes I have to be even more intentional than this. When life hits those extra stressful times, I can come to Jesus and simply say, help. It's almost like I pass him all the heavy stuff I'm carrying. Sometimes I even visualize it like that. I take the stress and the anxiety and the worry off my shoulders and I give it to him to carry. Now, that might sound strange if you've never done something like this. It might sound strange if you don't believe that Jesus is more than just a person from history. But Jesus invites you to come to him to find rest. So why don't we do that now? Wherever you are, whatever you are doing, just stop. Allow yourself to become aware of the yoke you're carrying. Allow yourself to acknowledge the weight you're under. Allow yourself to hear those words that Jesus speaks over you. Come to me if you are wearied and burdened. And if that is you, come to him. Bring all that is making you feel weary and burdened. Bring your stress, your worry, your anxiety, and ask him for help. Name what it is that you want him to help you with. Jesus, help me. And as you ask him for help, allow him to prompt and guide you. You might instinctively know what you need to do or what you need to let go of. You may become aware of the imbalance of priorities in your life. You might begin to see the places where you've put yourself at the center. Jesus' invitation to come to him is an invitation to follow him, to get in step with him. That's the yoke he's offering you to carry. If you don't know what that looks like, then simply start by each day asking Jesus to help you. And go about your day with your eyes open, looking for him to guide you. And he will. It might take time, but he will. If you're new to this, if you're not sure where to begin in following Jesus, just head over to fbcnext.com/mynextstep and you can find some tips and resources to help you. How do I feel refreshed in a world that is stressing me out? By accepting Jesus' invitation to come to him. Bring him your stress, your anxiety, your worry. Take off the yoke you are carrying and pick up the one he has for you. Start each day by asking Jesus to help you walk in step with him today. And end it by reflecting on what has happened, looking at the places where you were in step with Jesus and the places where you picked up your old yoke. Ask Jesus to help you in these areas tomorrow and go again. Allow Jesus to refresh you each day, each moment in the midst of a world that is designed to stress you out.
There is healing in the power of the Lord Most High. There is courage in the shadow of his wings. There is peace unending over all my life. There is freedom that washes over me. And I find all I need here in your presence, Lord. I open up my soul and you fill me up with all I need here in your presence, Lord. Where blessings overflow, there's always abundantly more. There is rest in the goodness of the Lord my God. There is treasure in the kindness of my King. There is comfort in knowing your unfailing love. My provider, you set my spirit free. I find all I need here in your presence, Lord. I open up my soul and you fill me God, your love for me is better than I imagined. It's more than I could ask or see, more than I could fathom. God, your love for me is better than I imagined. It's more than I could ask or see, more than I could fathom. God, your love for me is better than I imagined. I find all I need here in your presence, Lord. I'll open up my soul and you fill me up with all I need here in your presence, Lord. Where blessings overflow, there's always abundantly more. More than I can ask or see, more than I can fathom. God, your love for me is better than I imagined.
Father God, we know we exist in testing times. Life can be tough, stressful, uncertain. But please let us lean into the invitation to find rest and refreshment in you, Jesus. Let us find a way to not make material stuff the centre of our lives, but focus our lives on you. Lord, we ask we come to you weary and burdened, and learn to take your yoke upon us. Let us give up those expectations and stresses we put upon ourselves, and give us those moments of grace in our lives where we can just be in your presence, to rest, to restore ourselves. Please help us create sustainable rhythms in our lives, to come to you afresh each day, Lord. In your name, Father. Amen.
Thanks, Fiona. Well, it's great to be here. I've swapped places with Jamie.
Yes.
We're going to wrap up this part of the morning in a moment. We've been talking about the stuff about how do we feel refreshed in a world that's stressing us out. So we're going to have a quick chat.
We are indeed,
about
Chris.
that in a moment.
Yeah.
But you and Jamie have been talking about this question about, what answers do we search for on the internet? And we had a poll going. Yeah. Be good. Let's have a look at what's come up on that. So what do you see there, Fiona? What's the biggest answer?
Oh, the biggest one, if my eyesight can test me there, is how to get somewhere you're going.
Yeah, so
directions.
Lots of people looking for those sort of things. How to fix something I broke. Now, I think I voted for that one.
Yeah.
I do that. How to learn a new skill or a hobby or ideas for where to go on holiday is quite high. I find it interesting that funny pictures of videos of cats are as high as how to stop my kids arguing.
Yeah, that can't be right. I mean, I searched for both,
yes,
so that should be much higher.
Isn't that what the internet was invented for?
The internet was invented for cats doing funny things, right? That was the purpose of it.
Well, guys, thanks for taking part in that poll. Just a bit of fun just to get us into this whole new series of how do we search for answers. And we're going to explore some more of that sort of stuff as we go throughout this series. But we're going to wrap up this part of our morning. So thanks for joining us. But we're going to continue the conversation. So wherever you're watching, if you're on YouTube or you're on Facebook, you can just stay right there. And Fiona and I are just going to talk through the stuff that we've been talking about this morning. But it's not just going to be us talking. We'd love for you to comment and ask questions and be part of that conversation. So we're going to move into that part of our morning now. So what are the questions?
So let me get the questions up on my phone, Chris, because we've got 3 questions that we can discuss, and we'd really like you guys to answer them. Come online, give us something that's stressing you out. Maybe you'd like us to pray for something for you. So the first question is, what are the things that are making you feel wearied and burdened at the moment?
Yeah, that's quite a lot of things that are making me feel wearied and burdened. I'm sure, for you, Jack's already commented earlier in the stream about the low Wi-Fi. It's making them feel wearied and burdened. And there's a whole bunch of stuff. There's frivolous stuff and there's some really, deep and difficult things to carry in it. And it ranges from things like homeschooling. I'm sure lots of us have faced that. Right through to just uncertainty about what's going to happen. There's so many questions at the moment, and there seems to be very little answers.
There really is, isn't there? I mean, from the everyday stuff that I guess we can control some things, right? We can control, what the kids are going to learn at home school, whether we go out to the park and things. But there's just this huge cloud hanging over the whole of the world, really, isn't there? About, where is this pandemic going to take us? What's going to happen to our health? Is there going to be a second wave? What's going to happen with the economy? And these are questions we just don't know. And, and I see Claire's commented that something stressing her out at the moment is decluttering, packing and selling our house. I mean, gosh, that is one of the most, selling your house and most stressful scenarios, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, to do that in the middle of a pandemic is quite difficult. Matt Banks, who works for us at FBC, is getting married in September and moving house, I think, on Monday and all these sorts of things. Oh, my goodness.
I mean, why not do it all in the middle of a pandemic? I mean, if you're going for it, right, just go for it.
There's lots of stuff that's going on. And that sense, though, because we're sort of feeling out of control. That's the thing with the stress, whatever it is, and we all feel it in different ways. It could be stress or worried or burdened about going back to work. That's the thing that many people are facing at the moment, and thinking, is it safe? Am I going to be okay? Many people might be feeling worried or burdened about, will they have a job? There's so many uncertainties about that. That whatever it is that's making us feel worried or burdened makes us feel worried or burdened. And it almost doesn't matter what it is, because sometimes you can think, well, I can't complain about my problem because look at them, they've got that and it's so much more difficult. And when we do that, we then don't actually acknowledge that weight that we're carrying around. We don't deal with it because we think we shouldn't be complaining.
I think that's the thing. We get caught up, it's first world problems. This is stressing me out and someone has it much worse. And that is true. But, of course we can care about the big picture, but as you say, it doesn't stop us feeling that stress ourselves. And sometimes we have to take care of that in order that we can take care of bigger problems in the world. And I think what you're saying, is really hit home, that there's so many things it's that sense of lack of control, actually, over a lot of things. There is just things that we have these expectations that we should be able to control everything, don't we? And as a human desire to make sure, and we just can't. And that is part of so much of the stress, that we cannot foresee these things and we can't control it.
And everyone seems to often have an opinion on what you should do in those situations. And I'm sure it's true in lots of places. I know for us at FBC, as we're thinking about, how do we reopen the cafe and how do we do that in a safe way, which we've done, and that's gone really well for takeaway. And we're looking at how do we open the building. We're looking at when do we regather, on a Sunday morning and all those sorts of things. And there's so many things to take into case. And everyone's having that across the board in wherever they're working. But often we can allow ourselves to be burdened or feel worried by the expectation from other people who will say, well, you should be doing this and you should be doing that. And, we want to be able to listen, you want to be able to take that advice. But that can just be an extra weight on our shoulders. When you're already trying to figure these things out, that makes it difficult for us. But the good news is that this is what Jesus speaks into. Actually, whatever that thing is that's causing you to be worried or burdened, we can come to him and find rest.
Absolutely. And I think coming back to that sense of control, being able to say, I give this over to you, Jesus. I can't control this, but I know you're working in this situation, and we don't always know how or why things are happening, but just having that faith that there is a bigger picture here that we can't control, but he's there. And that doesn't take away our responsibility. I think, there's things we can do and we should do. We can pray for hungry people to be fed, but then we still need to go to the food bank and donate. But just being able to give that trust, I think, is such a sense of relief so much of the time.
Yeah, definitely. So guys, if you've got questions or comments around this stuff that we're talking about, please do stick them into the chat or the comments and be part of this conversation. Let's move on to question 2.
Let's have a look at question 2. So question 2, what are the sustainable rhythms that you can apply to your life?
Yeah, and I think that's quite an important thing to recognise, that we can do things and we can live in a way that can help us or hinder us in times like this. And, Jesus does talk a lot about sustainable rhythms. I was talking about in the message that in this verse that we looked at, that I think Jesus is talking about, look, this is how you find rest in the midst of a crisis. That when everything's going on around you, it's not about always retreating from that to find rest, actually, that we can feel refreshed in the midst of everything kicking off around us. But part of that is by having sustainable rhythms of life. and embracing those things. So like having a day off and trying to make sure that we keep a day off and we can have rest and time with family and we can just switch off and we're not feeling pressure to have to check emails or all those sort of things. We're not having to work in that. The things that I'm trying to do, and I've embraced a lot more through lockdown, is having a rhythm for my day. So I get up and I do exercise. I don't always do that, if I'm honest.
There's an intention.
Yeah, there's an intention. I've done it a lot more since lockdown started.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, as it starts to ease, I do it less.
Same here.
Why is
I
that?
don't know. We're like, there'll be an exercise class starting soon, so I can eat some more cake. And it's fine.
So instead of going for a run, I will, eat lots of toast or something for breakfast. But doing that, having that pattern of getting up, doing exercise in the morning, and then I'll have breakfast and I'll do my devotional time. I have a couple of apps that I use. Lectio 365 is a great one. That sometimes if it's sunny, I'll sit in the garden, I'll drink my tea, eat my breakfast, and just listen to that. And that's just a great rhythm for me before I get into my day and before I open emails. And I try not to do that before then, although I often fail. I often check my emails first thing, which is not a great thing to do.
But I guess that's also part that's the sustainable rhythm, is forgiving yourself. Like we do, fail to exercise some days. We do check our emails. We do use too much social media. But I guess it's about saying, okay, I've made that mistake, but tomorrow's a new day and restarting. Yeah, I think what you're saying sort of chimes with me a lot as well. I think since lockdown, it's trying to find those times in the day. And actually, it's been quite nice that there's been less time pressure in some ways. So we haven't got the school rush. We haven't got, taking people to X, Y, and Z. And it is just sitting with a cup of tea in the mornings, just listening and being present, or going for a walk or a run and being out in nature and in God's creation and just resting in that. And that's been really fulfilling and sustaining through this.
I think a key thing we need to recognise is what fills our cup, what fills our bucket. What are those things that are life-giving to us, and make sure we have time to do them. So golf is a big thing for me.
Obviously. Yeah, I'm sure Lou agrees with that.
I mean, that's a challenge because that can be draining for Lou. But I mean, I love it, and I feel energised and recharged by it. Even when I play badly, which is often when I do play badly, and then I search for answers to how to fix my slice on my driving. So I will build in time to do that.
Absolutely.
And that's part of my rhythm. Holidays, again, are a big thing for us. And not going away on a proper holiday this year, I'll feel that personally. But so we're getting time out and we're carving that out, and that's all again part of this sort of sustainable rhythm. And I think we need to look at it. What we're going to do each day, what are we going to do each week, what are we going to do each month, what are we going to do each term, what are we going to do each year, and actually be aware of those things. So I'll block in, maybe once a month or once every other month, a day where I can actually have just a little bit more space, or maybe just a morning if my schedule is really tight, and just take some time out and read and reflect. I'm privileged that I'm able to do that as part of my rhythm, and my work allows me to have space to do that. And I know not everybody can do that, but actually blocking in that time for when are you going to recharge a little bit more that you can't do every day and you can't do every week. If holidays are a big deal, let's get them in the diary early and build them around things like that. And it's all about sustainable rhythms. And Jesus talks a lot about that, definitely. And as we embrace that practice and as we embrace that rhythm of life, I think what happens is we find our life tends to blend together. People talk a lot about work-life balance. And I don't like that terminology, because you cannot have a work-life balance, because it sort of implies that work isn't life. And work is on one end of the scale and everything else is on the other end of the scale. And that's never going to balance at all. And the approach that I like to look at is have a blended life. So bring my work and my family and my hobbies and my holidays and all of that stuff and blend that together in a way that's healthy. So there will be times in life when I will focus more on work, and there'll be times in life when I focus more on family. There'll be times in life when I focus more on golf. Actually, that's quite often. And just blend that together, I find that's much more sustainable than trying to constantly battle this thing about, am I working too much, am I at home too much, or all those sort of things.
Absolutely. And I think also it's about, you were talking talk about expectations and that we put on ourselves. And sometimes trying to create these sustainable rhythms, I find actually can make life more stressful, because I'm saying, right, I need to exercise. I need to do this amount of homeschool with the kids. I need to make sure this is done, to try and create a routine. But then the routine in itself becomes a burden. Yeah. And it's actually knowing when to say, it's okay that I haven't done this today. It's okay that I am going off to do something for myself. It's okay that we're not doing homeschool today, or we finished early, and learning to relax your expectations on yourself, actually. Because that's, part and parcel of it.
And what does that look like for you, Fiona, do you think, when lockdown is over and the kids are back to school and life does go back to normal a little bit more? How do you keep that rhythm?
Yeah, and that is, I think, something a lot of us have talked about, haven't we, over lockdown? Like, there's been some positive things that have come out of it, and how do we keep those bits of the new normal into our everyday normality? And I think the things that I have learned is sometimes it's really nice not to fill your diary up with things and be constantly rushing from one thing to the next, and actually concentrate on what things really matter, what things really give me and my family, something really positive back. Yeah. And just keeping maybe the diary a little freer going forwards, instead of rushing off to, lots of exercise classes, going for a walk or run by myself, and just having that time to reflect and kind of meditate or whatever I want to do. So those things I think are really important. What about you, Chris? What have you found helpful in lockdown that you'll bring forward?
Yeah, well, the thing about trying to exercise regularly and have that rhythm as I ease into my day, and sometimes that can sound like, you don't get going till 10, 11, 12. I don't mean that at all, but you don't have to wake up and then go straight in. So actually just setting up my day, what I think will set up my day a lot better. Spending more time with family and, all those sort of things, I think are quite important.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've all missed off that, the wider family and friends we haven't been seeing. I mean, I think it's just made it, you realise how important those relationships are. So should we look at the third question?
Let's have a look at the third question.
Yeah, and guys, if you've got anything to comment, anything that you think you found really helpful during lockdown to keep those sustainable rhythms, please let us know. So the third question is, what does it look like for you to respond to Jesus' invitation to take my yoke upon you?
Yeah, I mean, that's a little bit of a complicated question, but obviously in the passage we were looking at, Jesus says, if you're feeling wearied and burdened, come to me and I'll give you rest. And how you receive that rest is to take his yoke upon you. And again, I mentioned that it's a strange picture or a strange analogy, because a yoke is a symbol of work, of really hard work. So Jesus is using this working symbol as an analogy or a picture of rest. And the two don't go together. And I think, that part of that is Jesus saying, when you come to me, it's not about just putting your feet up. It's not about you sitting back and letting me do all the work for you. Actually, I want you to work with me. And there's also that image of a yoke was placed across oxen to harness two oxen together. You might harness an inexperienced oxen with a more mature oxen or cattle, so they would know where to go. I mean, I don't know how people know that, but people know that. I'm not into agriculture, I don't understand stuff, but I've read it in a book, so there you go.
There you go.
And it's that sense of, actually, when I come to Jesus and I pick up that yoke, I'm partly, I symbolize, I think I'm harnessing myself to him. I want to walk in rhythm and in step with him. So what it looks like for me to pick Jesus's yoke up is partly about taking the one I carry around with me off my shoulders. So that one that's full of the expectations I put on myself, and also the expectations other people put on me, that I allow them to put on me. And we often walk around with that and think, I've got to get this all right, and I've got to be perfect, and I've got to have everything sorted, and I've got to fix this, and I've got to do that, and I've got to be there, and I have to respond to that, and I have to live like this, and I have to be that sort of personality or that sort of character or that type. And that can be a massive weight that we carry around. So for me to take Jesus's yoke onto my shoulders, I can't carry two. I have to take that one off first. And come to me and say, okay, I'm going to pick that up, and I'm going to walk in step with you. So going back to that stuff about rhythms, that's a big part of that. Because if I'm going to carry Jesus' yoke, if I'm going to walk in step with him, then I need to sort of go about my day as he would if he was in my shoes. just look to him and to learn from him, try and live my life in a way that will seek to bring him honor and glory. And the good news is that Jesus has already given us the answer to that. Any question, any point in life that we're wondering, what is it should we do? How do we respond in this situation? Well, Jesus basically took all of the commands and all of the instructions that we find in the entire of Scripture, the whole of the Bible, and boiled it down to 2. He said, the most important is to love God with everything you've got. And the second, which is just like the first, and actually I think what Jesus means by this is the way you fulfill that, the way that you fulfill loving God with everything you've got is to love your neighbour as yourself. So for me to put Jesus' yoke upon my shoulder actually looks like in every situation, in what I think, in what I say, and what I do, am I honouring God and am I blessing people around me? Now, often the answer is no. If I'm honest, often I will do things, I'll say things, I will think things that doesn't honour God or doesn't bless people. And that's part, you're talking about that, of just starting again and forgiving ourselves because he forgives us and thinking, okay, this day, God, help me to carry your yoke. Help me not to pick up that one that I'm so tempted to pick up. Help me to walk in step with you and to seek to honour you in everything I do and to seek to bless the people around me. And if I'm doing that really well, at the end of the day, I will reflect back and look back and think, God, where were the places where I honoured you? And where were the places that I didn't? Where were the places in my day where I blessed people? And where were the places that I didn't? Help me tomorrow to be better at that. And it's a bit of a challenge, it's a bit of a mindful. There's a lot to it, but the more we do it, the more we sort of understand and the more we can learn to walk in step with him.
Yeah, I get that. I feel like it's a bit like, I guess, when you sort of give up any bad habits. Initially, it's hard, right? You're sort of saying, I've got to give up all this stuff. But like anything that you're embracing that is a positive change, whether it be better diet, more exercise, giving up smoking, drinking, eventually you feel the benefit of that goodness.
Yeah.
And it feels like that when you're talking about, taking off one yoke and taking up another. Yes, we've got to learn, and yes, it is work, but it leads to just a completely different positive experience in life, and that is in itself much more restful and much more you giving back to the world we're part of.
Yeah. What do you think that yoke looks like that you might be tempted to pick up that isn't the one that Jesus has for you?
I think it's probably being too controlled, but trying to control everything around me and trying to come up with contingency plans for, I need to go out and find the cure for coronavirus. I need to.
Please do. Come on.
I mean, it would be helpful if I could, but, all that. And actually, that's not my place. I can only control the bit around me, and I can only do what I can do. And that doesn't, as I was saying earlier, that doesn't take away responsibility. I still need to go and do good works in the world. I still need to, think about, is there stuff that's happening in my neighbourhood that I need to help with? Is there places I should speak up and use my voice? Are there, people that I know could use my support? And doing that. But it's not trying to save the world, it's trying to save those things we can. And I think for me also, it's learning not to get, where I want to speak up about things. It's learning not to get into heated arguments. It's actually to understand that if you're going to be a Christian, you have to represent God's love. So going and screaming and shouting at people or getting angry at situations isn't glorifying God. You're not doing that. So it's to take a breath and say, right, okay, if I see something that I think is wrong, how do I approach that in a way that glorifies God? Yeah. How do I love people, even that are difficult to love? And that whether that's people in my community, whether that's my own children, sometimes, it's actually taking that breath and saying, Jesus has been, good to me. Jesus has given me for my, when I've been not behaving the best. So how do I extend that to other people?
Yeah. No, that's good. And the whole thing that we're talking about is that Jesus offers us an invitation, all of us, whatever we think, whatever we believe or don't believe, whatever we've done or haven't done. Yeah. And that invitation is if we're feeling wearied, if we're feeling burdened, that we can come to him and he will give us rest. And how we do that is by taking that yoke that we've been carrying around off our shoulders and replacing it with the one that he offers us. And it's an invitation, but it doesn't happen automatically.
Yeah.
We have to choose to accept that. And maybe you're watching that and you're thinking, yeah, I feel wearied and I feel burdened and I want to experience that rest. And that is an invitation that Jesus is offering to you. And maybe this is an opportunity for you for the first time to actually acknowledge your need for that and actually come to Jesus and take that yoke off your shoulders that you've been carrying around with you, that thing that's been weighing you down. Just acknowledge that it's not designed for you, it doesn't fit you. And replace it with the one that Jesus has for you, to walk in step with him. And it just starts with you saying to him, Jesus, I need some help. And if that's you, we'd love for you to do that. Reach out to us, go through fbcnext.com. You can contact us, connect with you and pray with you and support you in that. Go to my next step on fbcnext.com as well. And there's loads of tips and resources there that can help get you started on that. Well, Fiona, it's been great to have this conversation with you. Thanks for joining us this morning. We're going to wrap up our time. Thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you have a great week. We're going to be back here again next week for another search question. We've got a special guest, a guy called Duncan Banks, is going to be with us. So tune in for that. Have a great week and we'll see you soon.
Thank you. Goodbye.